MJ gets furious, but the Charlotte Hornets find a way to hold on against the LA Lakers. The Locked On Hornets podcast goes live today on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hornets!
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets at night. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making us maybe your last listen of the day, but maybe your first listen of the next day here on Locked On Hornets. We're free and available on all platforms. Subscribe to the pod, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get them. Plus, go check us out on YouTube, where we are live currently after the LA Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets win against the Lakers. Huge game for them, especially at the end when we all thought they might just blow it. Russell Westbrook going against Miles Bridges, isolation, one-on-one. What does Russ do? After a 30-point second half, breaks a three-point shot. Eventually, Charlotte would end up holding on because of Ish Smith, who played the hero. Doug Branson, David Walker joining me to talk about the Lakers-Charlotte Hornets game. Hornets barely squeaking by. Whew, what'd you guys make of this one? Right at the end, Hornets able to win it.
Look, Russell Westbrook, Ish Smith, 3-point fourth quarter shootout, just like we all predicted.
Exactly.
By the way, I can't yell Hornets anymore on this episode, unfortunately, because the baby is sleeping. This is Hornets After Dark, and I will get in major trouble if that baby wakes
You're going to
up.
have to use your NPR voice tonight.
Hornets. Hornets.
Did you get a text from wifey saying, hey, shut up?
Stop. Producer Katie said, shut your mouth.
Yeah. Okay, we get it. We get it. You do a podcast for the Hornets. We don't need to hear from you anymore.
Oh, boom. What's up? What's up, MOB8994? Hey, chat with us on YouTube, by the way. Love the chats on YouTube. We're live right now. Hit us with your questions, your comments. MJ's mad. Are you mad? What's going on? Best Impact is already in the chat.
Already?
He's a chat favorite.
God, I love
terrible coaching.
Terrible coaching. Let's go.
We'll get to some of it. All right, David.
All right. So you tell me, you're the producer, Doug. I like to throw this response. It's a nice excuse for me to just throw the responsibility on you so you can plan the show as we go live and maybe a little unprepared. So let me throw it to you. What is the first storyline you want to talk about with this game? Because there actually are quite a bit of storylines we could go to.
Well, I think had they won the game by double digits, which it looked like for much of the game they were going to be able to accomplish, the story would have been Ish Smith's incredible game to lift the Hornets team over a scrappy Lakers bench. But because the game was so close, I think we have to talk about how that game ended and some questionable decisions. And for that, I'll throw it to my man, David. Let's talk about how that game ended. Some interesting decisions, some interesting rotations, some interesting decisions by key players like Miles Bridges with that technical foul for doing the small to Austin Reeves. I mean, what did you think overall about how the Hornets how they were composed at the end of that game?
There wasn't much. I mean, honestly, Ish Smith was composed, and I guess that's why he stayed on the floor for basically the entire second half and what it felt like. I mean, to defend JB a little bit, I kept saying, okay, now we've had Ish. It's good. But he kept hitting shots and kept making plays to keep the Hornets out in front. Everyone in that locker room tonight, though, guys, should be looking around the room at the same time they're looking in the mirror. They should all line up, simultaneously look in the mirror, because they all had a hand in letting the Lakers get back in that game. I mean, that was ridiculous. At halftime, the story was this is a G League team with Russell Westbrook playing the Hornets, and they played like it. They played well. It was up. The crew on the ESPN crew was throwing the towel in, and guys come back. They let him hang around. They let Westbrook get cooking a little bit. And what you didn't want to have happen was get into a guts contest down to the stretch with Russell Westbrook, and it almost came back to bite him. I mean, he had a shot. They had several shots to take the lead. They had several shots throughout the course of that third and fourth quarter, open shots to take the lead or to get closer than they had been, and they just barely got out of there. I mean, to their credit, the Hornets made enough plays when they had to, yes, but middle mistakes. I thought the Miles call was garbage, but you can't do that then. What are you
Right.
doing? Time and score. Well, I mean, what's
Right.
up?
Well, it's a maturity level thing, which has been an issue with this Hornets team in general. But your star player, the guy who now looks like could get possibly an all-star reserve bid, has
Deserve
got
it.
to understand the situation a little bit better than that. If he, has any intention of leading this team into the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I always struggle with that one because it's like, David is right. It was ridiculous. And so how much
Oh, it was
responsibility?
horrible.
It's like, well, do you put that on Miles Bridges for even approaching that territory, even though the call was pretty ridiculous? And then we discuss if he was a higher profile star, does he
Sure.
get that call against him?
But he's
Russ
not.
doesn't get it.
But he's
and,
but he's
and-
not.
and that's fine, but the call at the baseline, at the very foundation of what this argument is the call there? Is it fair? And I would say no. And so it's bad officiating, understanding that it still was a pretty big detriment to the Charlotte Hornets. Either way, that's not even the only reason that the Lakers got back.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook was getting to the rim whenever he wanted to, especially at the end. Look, I mean, certified gamer, Terry Rozier, I get it. I thought his defense was pretty terrible.
Stangin'.
I mean, but look, I thought his defense was pretty awful in this one, especially at the end. And you saw
He was saving himself for the fourth quarter when
He was cold. His legs were ice cold.
I mean, I just thought the defense allowing, Russell Westbrook to drive right by him.
Well,
I thought there was some half.
He wasn't the only one.
No, he wasn't.
It wasn't
No, but
Terry. I mean, I saw Cody Martin get scorched. I saw PJ Washington get bodied. I mean, there were plenty of Hornets defenders that Russell Westbrook
so
was making look 30 points in the second half. I mean, he was making everyone look ridiculous.
He was gonna.
I guess my point is that there were times where I saw point to the one that you thought was most egregious. That's fine. I'm going with Terry Rozier a couple of times at the end. I thought there just wasn't much resistance, but in the end, it's Ish Smith who is the hero. Like Ish Smith, the only bad thing he did was airball a three-pointer late, but it fell right in the arms of Cody Martin with the offensive rebound who hit it. And so, okay, maybe we could just go that it was a pass off the backboard. Ish Smith playing the hero. I didn't expect that. Not on primetime Friday night against the Lakers, ESPN. Didn't expect Ish Smith to be the hero.
Yeah, and we should note we are doing this literally. I mean, I don't even think the Hornets have done post game yet, right? So like a lot of this is still fresh for us, and so we're taking
This is raw.
It's raw. so take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, Ish, if he hadn't kept scoring, the Hornets don't win that game, right? I mean, it was literally Ish versus Westbrook. I mean, that's absolutely insane. That's insane. I was scared. I was scared Carmelo was going to hit something, in there. I mean, guys. I mean, where do you start? Is it the third quarter? It's got to be the third quarter collapse.
This is so funny. The Hornets have just won their 28th game. They're now 6 games above 500. They won on national television. I mean, I get all the buts. I mean, they did get the win. Ish Smith was incredible. He is the emergency glass break in case necessary player for the Hornets this season. He's an absolute mercenary. I don't understand how this guy can just sit on the bench game after game, and then national TV, ESPN, you're playing the Lakers, he comes in and is just in fuego. He's done this time. I mean, he saved the Hornets against Denver that saved that West Coast road trip. He's just had multiple games now this season where he's come through big time. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it's so weird, the fact that he's just a guy that doesn't really play all that much, but then when he does, he comes up with these big-time spurts. At the beginning of the year, we were talking about him as playing more like a sixth man of the year candidate than Kelly Oubre, and of course it's been Kelly here majority of the season, and then here comes Ish Smith on primetime against the LA Lakers. It's crazy to see, and he was the guy that was allowing them to stay in this game right at the end of that. You see what, we're going through, what is it now? We've got a few minutes left maybe in this first segment. I did want to mention LaMelo Ball, though, because LaMelo, if we're going to talk about the decisions that were made at the end of this game, we have the timeout that was called, that was questionable, that was controversial, and we also have LaMelo not getting in the game. That's something Ryan Rocco talked about, too, at the end of this, in the last 2 minutes.
He was trying to
Where
get him
is he?
in. Yeah. When Rocco said that, he was at the scores table, I think, because I was looking for him, too.
Right.
Well, that was the second instance where LaMelo was stuck at the scoring table. If you remember in that third quarter, which the They were outscored, I think, 36-21 or 22 in that third quarter. 36-22 in that third quarter. And for a large portion of the middle to the end of that third quarter, LaMelo Ball was nowhere to be found in the offense. Now, there were a lot of defensive issues, but the offense was stagnating. I mean, they weren't moving the ball. They weren't playing with pace, and they were getting demolished by the Lakers in that third quarter. And I just thought LaMelo should have been in there for that. So, this has not been the podcast to, rail on rotations or minutes this season, but I thought this was, particularly on a national stage, some pretty egregious mismanagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the angriest I've seen all of us Hornets fans collectively after a win.
Including the biggest, maybe the one with the most stakes. MJ looked pretty upset in the old suite.
Oh, he wanted that game so bad. It doesn't matter if LeBron wasn't playing. He still wanted it. He was still so mad at maybe JB calling that timeout.
Let's get to that. We got to talk.
Yeah,
we got to talk about that.
All right, we'll do that in the next segment. Let's talk about Bet Online. There might be less football being played, but Bet Online has way more stuff to bet on this playoff season, from scored, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land. Bet Online is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And with the new year, it comes a new updated desktop and mobile website. To sign up today, receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. And it's not just football, by the way. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds coverage is the best in the business, from sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Plenty more to come. This game recap, doing the HIVE Live, coming up next. Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So if you don't believe in the moon landing, then what would you say is the greatest human achievement?
I think the greatest achievement of all time, and I think it's Vince Carter doing 360s clockwise rather
really
than counterclockwise.
I've tried it. It's really tough.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Shout out Vince Carter. Shout out Weddington. We got somebody. Big fan of the podcast.
Weddington, holler.
Appreciate you. Appreciate
Tell
everybody.
us where you're from in the chat, especially internet. We want to get those international shout outs. So if you're listening overseas,
tell if it's daytime where you are.
Oh, that'd be dope.
That's what we want to know. Hey, give us your time zone. What is it in Weddington?
Well, how about this shout out from Tar Heel Petey? Sold my tickets for $1,300 and got that dub.
Now, see, that's
play.
So I was going back and forth with a buddy tonight because when the word came out that LeBron and AD weren't playing, and I cannot believe LeBron didn't play this game. I mean, I was sold that he was going to do it.
Shocking.
I didn't think he'd missed two back to back.
He always takes these opportunities.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and
right.
that warm-up shot, that warm-up video that was going around too, it's like, I don't know why that gave me some chills, but I was like, man, he looks locked in. It looks like he's about to destroy us. That's what LeBron does.
It must be bothering him though, because I mean, he was, he would have gone if he could. So,
and is there any doubt in either of your minds that had LeBron played, the Hornets were going to be doomed? Like they would have been
Vince Carter?
I mean,
they would have been crushed.
Yeah.
LeBron would have gotten the win. By the way, we appreciate the shout outs. David Hodgen writing in that he's in Chapel Hill and it's daytime there. So appreciate you, David. Really appreciate you updating us on that.
It's always daytime on the hill.
Yeah, of course it is. Jam Will saying salute Walker and Doug. We'll get a salute to David in there. Thanks, Jam Will. Best Impact saying it's 4:46 in the morning. Thanks for staying up late with us. Love from High Point, Dominican Republic. It's nighttime there. We're just going to read time zones the entire time. All right, Doug, you want to talk about that timeout? you wanted to read. You wanted to talk about that timeout, Doug. Go ahead. What's your take on it?
And I can't confirm that this is why MJ had this reaction, but they did cut to it.
I think that was after the Stanley Johnson putback when MJ left, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Okay, well, unconfirmed, but
that was MJ is keeping track of the timeouts left. I mean, come on, he's locked in, but he ain't that locked in.
He's locked in, but he ain't locked on. I was upset. That was my reaction to the timeout because why take the timeout in that situation?
They have to foul.
Terry, yeah, they have to foul. Terry's getting trapped, but he's clearly breaking through the trap. He was going to get fouled. Terry's a good free throw shooter and a certified gamer. You know he's going to hit those. He's hit clutch free throw after clutch free throw for this team this season. You know he's going to get the foul there, and you get to save the timeout for if you absolutely have to use it. It was just a boneheaded timeout, and it reminded me of the timeout that another timeout that he had on national TV. I believe it was in the Miami game that he used, and I thought really kind of turned the tide of that game in the fourth quarter. So I don't get it. I just don't get that situation using that timeout.
Well, it's tough, right? Because I think he saw the trap coming. He didn't want to fall into the turnover trap. I mean, he's trying to bail this guy out. The problem was it was like 16 seconds on the shot clock versus 16.9 on the game clock, right? So they did have to foul. It's tough right there, but this is not. If this is a one-time thing, maybe you could talk yourself out of it. But JB doesn't really, hold those timeouts. He doesn't have in the tank at the end of the games, and that particular moment, because you might need it. I mean, they almost did need it.
Yeah, they almost did. Yeah, they really almost needed it. And hey, maybe MJ did want the timeout because he subscribes to the Roy Williams philosophy of letting him play to it.
That's
and
right.
so if he was JB using that up, Roy Williams would have let him play.
Let's keep it in the pocket.
MJ knows.
Dude, shout out Ray, London, England. My favorite sandwich is London broil. I don't know if that has anything to do with actual London town or if that was just some kind of gimmick that they made up, but that's my favorite. Sandy. Shout out Ray.
I think guys honestly though, JB, he's got to be thrilled with how this worked out because this is a teachable moment in a big win on national TV. They got the win. I mean, to your point though, they got the win. They need wins now. They need to be cashing in on these wins at home. Normally I would have been upset that LeBron and AD and they didn't have their full force, to play tonight, but not right now. The Hornets need to stack up these wins while they can. And JB, they got another game on a matinee game on Sunday. They can turn around, even though this win. He can point to all these.
They need some bodies. They got to get some bodies back, man. I mean, I could have used some Kelly Oubre son of a shots in this one, the kind that make the bench go son of a when you knock them down. Like they were missing that. By the way, shout out Charlie, also across the pond, Essex, England, says it's 4 a.m. there. Crikey. Wait, that's Australia. Hey, Charlie, how far is Essex from London? Charlie, can we get like a little watch party going on? Is Essex far from London? We need to get Ray and Charlie together watching a little Hornets basketball. Tar Heel Petey says, Doug, can we get a Hornets? Okay, well, I explained this at the very top of the show. The baby is sleeping right now. Again, I blame it all on the baby.
Can you whisper it at
least?
least? I mean, it's not like we have one volume, right?
Oh, I can give you a Hornets.
Perfect.
Hornets.
Batman. Is that your Batman voice?
It's Christian Bale. Thank you. And we got a new guest on the podcast. I do want to mention this real quickly. AJ wrote in that we almost lost to the Lakers bench. David, you were discussing how, usually you would be kind of mad about that roster and losing to them. I think that's why people kind of are in our mentions right now with the live chat, angry all over the place, because you do look at the starting lineup. It's kind of brutal. I mean, you can tell why the Lakers are not above 500 this year. And look, LeBron, AD out, right? We get it. But they just signed Stanley Johnson for the rest of the season.
Right.
DeAndre Jordan, people have begged for him not to play. Russell Westbrook, we know all the problems been surrounding him. Avery Bradley and Wayne Ellington, they were good in 2011.
They're very old.
And now here they are getting real minutes, 20 and 18. Like, AJ's right. Carmelo, it's funny because Melo is kind of – Carmelo, yeah, that's true. But Carmelo at least has kind of bought into his role ever since he went to Portland. Go ahead.
And if you remember, we got a vintage Carmelo game in that last contest that they played against the Lakers. Carmelo buried the Hornets. So it wasn't out of the question that we could get another good Carmelo game. Russell Westbrook at least fended off his critics for one night.
Well, for one half.
Yeah, for a half at least. But the Lakers have been playing uninspired, especially offensive basketball, even with LeBron James and AD in the lineup. I mean, obviously the talent's going to help, but this Lakers team is in serious trouble, and the Hornets had an opportunity to come in here and show out. I mean, they were missing folks too. Kelly Oubre, huge to this offense. Gordon Hayward makes this thing run in certain respects. But at least, look, I'm agreeing with UNASIB here. A win is a win. I mean, we're not going to remember the Lakers roster in this one when we talk about how many wins they have at the end of the season, and now they're back to, 6 games above 500, I'm happy. That's what I'm saying. Maturity. There's not the proper maturity level here, and eventually that has to take care of itself before this regular season is over. They showed ESPN cut to this story where they have the score of that play-in game where they got blown out by the Indiana Pacers. It shouldn't be on the practice facility. It should be burned in the back of their cerebellum. I think. I don't know. I'm not a brain surgeon. I don't know if that's correct. If you're a brain surgeon in the chat, let me know.
I personally think it should be in their hippocampus, but if you want to go with the cerebellum, that's fine.
Not in their practice. That's good. It doesn't need to be in their practice campus. It needs to be burned in their hippocampus, okay? They need to remember that every single game and play like it. Hey, can we talk about somebody who did play like it, and that's Mason Plumlee?
There you go.
Well, Mason made him remember he was a plus 17 in this game, only 8 points. The man cannot score 10 points. It's incredible. It doesn't matter what happens. He cannot score 10 points, but he made up for it. 17 rebounds in this game, 5 offensive rebounds, 6 assists. He led the team. He was tied for the lead in assists with Miles Bridges. Incredible. And still managed to have a few plays where you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, we saw. So I saw a couple. I think KNav put in that LaMelo Ball was plus 21 in the plus minus, and Ish Smith was -3. But Ish is the hero. LOL. Should we say Mason was the second biggest because he was plus 17 then?
That's true.
Is Mason? I think by that.
Cody Martin was plus 15.
Man, but look, man, those are your heroes of the night. It's LaMelo coming in at plus 21, 20 points, and then Mason and Cody. You guys are the next 2 players of the game. All right, let's go to Built Bar. Let's talk about them.
You know what? That didn't sound very sincere.
What? You don't think wait. You don't think I'm sincere when I say Mason Plumlee is the second best player in this game?
I don't.
That's so. Weird. Hey, let's talk about Built Bar instead. Then we can talk more about Mason Plumlee. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. It makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it too. Unlike other protein bars, which kind of be chalky, waxy, kind of tastes like a chemical spill, all that stuff. 130 calories, really low there. 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but they also have high protein and high fiber. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. One more segment to go. Kind of celebrating a win against the LA Lakers. It's coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So if you don't believe in the moon landing, then what would you say is the greatest human achievement?
I think the greatest achievement of all time, and I think it's Vince Carter doing 360s clockwise rather
really
than counterclockwise.
I've tried it. It's really tough.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, what are some of the other things you wanted to talk about? What were some of the things you noticed in this game elsewhere that we did not hit on, or are there bigger picture stuff talking about this where, look, LaMelo, Miles, your 2 players that have been getting a lot of votes in the All-Star results, but LaMelo not playing at the end of this game, but still getting 20 points. Miles Bridges did play well, was attacking, got to the free throw line quite a bit. Miles Bridges and LaMelo at least giving you some kind of stability, right? Where they're still are going to get you some decent stats and some decent numbers in a couple of categories that actually matter to kind of help you come out on top of this one.
Yeah, I really want to get to some All-Star game because we got the final numbers. Really want to kind of dig into that in just a second. But we did get a chat from Lane Swish here with a good question. Missed the early Book minutes. He didn't play well, did he? I didn't. Yeah, it was Ish. I didn't think that Book played poorly. They did go with the like LaMelo Book Night lineup for a little while, and then I felt like especially at the beginning of the game, I was like, they got to get some size on the floor. They were playing a little too small, especially when that bench unit came out, and I thought they had to get some size on the floor. They went to that, and then Ish started playing well, and then they just, JB is definitely a hot hand rider, and he was going to go once Ish got cooking, he was going to go with him the whole game.
Yeah. Well, that's what James Borrego will do. He'll ride the hot hand. That especially he unapologetically so. Ish Smith kept it going, and so he kept riding with him. And if Book Night, that's it, right? Like Book Night doesn't get minutes because Cody Martin has been so good this year. So then when you're missing Kelly Oubre, when you're missing a Gordon Hayward, when you're missing a Jalen McDaniels, that's going to leave some room to work with. But Ish took those minutes because he was playing so well, and that's why Ish didn't take the minutes of James Book Night a couple nights ago when Book Night was playing so well. And so that's just what James Borrego was deciding to do. What do you guys make of the All-Star voting results? David, I'll ask you first. So if you look at the breakdown, it's Miles Bridges actually getting a lot of player votes, finished fourth in the front court, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to the Eastern Conference front court players. Didn't get any votes for the media. In fact, he tied with a lot of other front court members for fourth, right? So it's not like he was shown so much disrespect. He just tied with a lot of other dudes who didn't get any votes. And then fan voting, they brought him in at ninth. So fan voting ninth, players fourth, media zero, tied with a bunch of people. We'll start with Miles first. Were you surprised to see the voting play out the way it did for Miles Bridges?
Hey, David. Hey, David. We're getting some reports that people can't hear you, and we can hear you. So it's a shame. I don't think it's anything with your mic. Why don't you hop out and come back in and see if that alleviates the situation.
Same question to you, Doug.
Yeah, I'll pick up on this conversation. I was honestly surprised that Bridges was so low in the fan vote and got a few votes from players. That was kind of exciting, honestly exciting to see that some of his peers actually threw him a few votes. But it's over. So the way the voting worked, if anyone doesn't know, is that you weren't really rank choicing the players. You were selecting both fans. Well, fans could select the three slots, and then players and media, same thing. You pick the three slots. So, Bridges got a little bit of love in that forward set, but the three forwards that are going for the East are pretty solid. Yeah. It's Embiid, it's Giannis, it's Kevin Durant. It's gonna be pretty difficult to beat. So
isn't that kind of crazy that Miles was fourth? Right,
above Jimmy Butler,
which is false. Like, look, we can love Miles and we can say
Butler's been injured. Miles has been healthy all season.
But Jimmy's been insane though too.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like Miles, I'm not saying Miles doesn't deserve any consideration. What I'm surprised, I guess, is to see that he's that popular. I thought he would get votes. He's a tough player to play against. I think that much is true when he's getting that much respect from his NBA colleagues. But I'm surprised he's still like right after the OG front court members that are always going to get those votes ahead of him, right? Like that's pretty impressive to me.
Well, it's impressive that he got any votes because it was so overwhelming for the three guys. Because I didn't see the actual voting totals, but I doubt that Miles got I think it was maybe a few votes. Maybe Miles got one or two, and then some of the other guys got one or two. I don't think it was an overwhelming number of votes from the players. But it's clear there's some respect there, and that's nice to see. And now, it does that. The question really is, does that filter into maybe a coach's reserve decision? And I think it's certainly possible. We saw the guys from TNT, only one. I think Kenny Smith was the only one that put LaMelo Ball into the reserve discussion.
He put both of them in, I think, LaMelo and Miles.
Yeah. So I think there's a serious question as to whether or not the coaches decide to put LaMelo in at this point. David, we're going to try you again. Let's see if we can. Hopefully this audio is working.
Yeah.
David,
did you see K-Nav again? He said that there was no audio for the third dude. So let's try the third dude.
All right,
once more.
let's toss it to the third dude.
Can anyone hear me? You guys can hear me, right?
We can.
Yeah, chat
so we'll
if you
see.
can
Just
hear.
chat.
We
Just
can hear
keep
you.
Chat.
Keep talking. Give us your takes, and then I'm sure people in the chat will tell us if they can hear you or not.
Oh my gosh, what's happening tonight, guys? Let me know if you can hear this. Anyone? Lane Swish?
Yes,
Anybody
people can
out
hear
there?
you.
All right.
People can hear you. Let's
You
do
guys
it.
missed some true gems, but Doug will work on that on the back end.
Oh yeah, hopefully it's saved. Hopefully it's saved to YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah. No. I was just going to piggyback on what you guys said on the Miles thing. I was a little encouraged by what I saw just on the overall voting and thinking he may have a chance again. You never know. I mean, I think LaMelo is going to be involved during the weekend. I would be surprised, even Miles may be involved as well for the dunk contest and stuff. I would think LaMelo would be in the skills maybe. But I think LaMelo's recognized enough where he would be put in. He's been good enough. We'll just have to see how it shakes out.
Better than
That's
Hero.
encouraging.
Like I saw a lot of the TNT guys put in Hero, and it's like, I mean, his
Really?
numbers are just unbelievably. I mean, more assists, more rebounds, better PER. I mean, just all around has been a better player than Hero. But because Hero's sitting in the sixth man of the year slot, I guess it feels obligatory. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the TNT people were clowning their votes all day long. Like, we know what it is with Charles Barkley. They play a game called Where He Play At or Who He Play With, and Charles doesn't know. Like, so of course he's going to put Tyler Hero in the All-Star, and he's going to have him as an All-Star member. Here's what I want to talk about, though, guys. There could be one individual player that takes away 2 accolades from 2 Hornets, 2 separate ones. Darius Garland has been very good for Cleveland this year, and the Cavaliers have the best point differential in the Eastern Conference, and the fact that we had such low expectations for them and where they are right now, you often go to that team and try to reward that team. Well, Darius Garland has a shot to take away LaMelo Ball's All-Star appearance, which players voted more for Darius than they did LaMelo, and he has a shot to take away Miles Bridges' Most Improved Player of the Year award. Like, Garland himself could take away 2 accolades for a couple of these Charlotte Hornets
Okay,
players.
but let me counter that and say that I think an argument could be made that it's not Darius Garland that's taking away LaMelo's opportunity to become an All-Star this season.
Are you going to say it? Don't do it.
It's Mason
We're
Plumlee.
live, Doug.
It's Mason Plumlee. No, it's Mason Plumlee. It's not. No, I wasn't going to say JB. I was going to say Mason Plumlee because he doesn't have a big guy. I mean, that's it. Darius Garland. He's sitting on this team that
3 big guys at least.
They have a
4.
They have a great point. They have a great point differential because they can play defense and offense.
Yeah.
I mean, no. What's funny is I thought you were actually going to say LaMelo. I thought you were going to say Darius taking LaMelo's chance away from him. I thought you were going to say LaMelo.
No, I think objectively LaMelo has had an All-Star level season. I mean, I don't even know that that's a question now. But, I think they will look at other players who are on slightly better teams. That happens every year. It's what kept Kemba out of the All-Star game once or twice. But it didn't hurt Trae Young, obviously. But what are you going to do? Fans voted.
Yeah, you're right, Doug. We were texting earlier. LaMelo needs a K-pop superstar, or he needed that in the early run.
All right, explain this for people who don't know. So Andrew Wiggins is in the All-Star game. He's a starter, which is
front
incredible.
Court starter. Yep.
Makes no sense except for when you understand that the Warriors have a serious K-pop following, and there are serious retweet numbers going towards Wiggins to help lift him into the All-Star game. So, yeah, LaMelo, you got to reach out and make some connections in South Korea and get this thing going.
Exactly. I mean, where do you guys stand on the voting? I mean, for this, I feel like Wiggins is going to end up taking the brunt of this hate, and it's not like it's out of the question that he's had a good year. It's just it looks crazy.
But that's not the measuring stick. He had a good year. That's not the measuring stick for an All-Star starter.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
I mean, right. When with Andrew Wiggins, I think it is kind of crazy to see, right? Like it has to be those types of individual groups that are just continuing to grind out the votes, especially for it to have that much. And when you play for a good team like Golden State and you're having a good year, you try to justify it and put it on a pedestal more so than it should.
So
And
why do
here he
we
is getting this vote?
So why do we count, because they count the fan votes, I believe they weigh twice as much as the media players.
Because the idea of counting the fan vote makes sense. It's a
I
fan
get it.
event.
Well, you should
it's
count
a
it.
fan league, and it makes sense.
It's a fan game.
It's a fan game, and it makes sense to weight the fan. What the problem is, the internet. It's the thing that's always the problem, right?
Thanks, Dad.
Like this happened. Who did this happen with? Not Enes Kanter. It was somebody else.
Zaza Pachulia.
Zaza Pachulia. So Zaza Pachulia almost got hacked into the All-Star game.
Was he playing for the Warriors?
I love
Was he playing
that.
for the Warriors at the time?
Yeah, I think
Might have been
so.
the Hawks. I don't know. I mean,
Either way, he's played for.
are we
a lot
just
of
listing
teams.
Zaza teams? I think that's what
But Jeremy
I,
Lin,
was
Jeremy Lin, right? I mean, there was a similar notion around Lin when during Linsanity, right? I mean, I think he got a lot of fan votes.
Yeah. Why are you trying to break? Listen, we got enough to deal with the LaMelo fan. Like, why are you trying to bring that hate back onto the show?
But come on, where's the LaMelo? Where are the stands?
I've been asking that.
Come
I've been
on.
asking that.
If you are that dedicated, where are the followers? Where are the retweets?
Because LaMelo was sitting, if you look at the fan vote, he sits in this. He sits in the what did Tom Wamskamp call it in Succession, the middle, the like murky middle or whatever. Like he sits in, he's not at the bottom of the top.
Right.
That's where he's got to get to the bottom of the top.
Oh, right. He's not.
I can't remember what he called it, but that's where he's sitting right now. He's sitting in this like lower tier, and I've been asking that, like, where has his fan vote been?
I mean,
They don't watch the NBA. They don't watch basketball.
Well, and you see LaMelo now, like I was surprised a little bit where he, at first, like him staying fifth, I thought he was solidly going to stay there. And then who passed him for the sixth spot? Because then LaMelo fell to sixth in the fan voting, I think. And then you see the players didn't respect LaMelo as much, like not as much as some players in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, that might be a little,
You think jealousy?
Cool your jets. Yeah.
Yeah, you think so? Like, hey, you got to earn
young
this.
guy, young
Yeah.
guy. I think for the most part, I mean, nobody hates these guys. All love each other, these days anyway. But yeah, I think to some degree, like, hey, cool your jets a little, but I don't know. They love Miles, so it's one and two.
But I would say Miles has had a few more games this season where it's been clear that he is like taking over the game. Unstoppable, and I'm going to go out and win this game. LaMelo's had a few of those this season, but they haven't been
at MSG.
Just not as many, and I think people are waiting on him to do that sort of more consistently.
Well, and that's something we've seen, a lot from players, right? Because the argument is, well, the players are playing. It's very Jeff Garcia versus Mina Kimes-esque. You didn't put your hand in the dirt. You didn't throw a pass, and it's all BS. But what happens is the players, they go out and make a mockery of the whole voting process too and end up putting somebody that shouldn't be in the All-Star game in the All-Star game. And what happens is these players also really value one-on-one scoring, and it doesn't matter if you're inefficient. If you see big-time numbers in that points column, the players, as voting results have shown, they kind of gravitate towards those stats. And so I think you see exactly to your point what you're saying, Doug. It's you see Miles a little bit more taking over. This is my game. I'm going to win this for the team. And players respect it. It doesn't matter if Melo is making everybody else better around him. It doesn't matter if, Melo is the kind of superstar that thrives off of facilitating. Miles, while he can make a little now, he's always going to earn his money based off of scoring and taking over games. And I think that is what has allowed him to maybe get more fan votes than what LaMelo did.
Yeah, I think they both make the game better. So if you're voting for fun All-Star game participants, they should both be on your ballot. But yeah, we'll see. It's so funny when you talk about these votings because every time there's a weird, wacky vote in either category, fans, players, coaches, media, that it's always like, all right, let's take their vote away. These fans don't know anything. The players know, so it all depends. It all probably ends up balancing out. Like I said, Wiggins is I don't think he's egregious. I really don't. If you look at the guys below him, it's not bizarre. It's not crazy. It's eyebrow raising at best, but I wouldn't put him in there as a starter. I think he's borderline. But if you're borderline, you deserve to be in the conversation.
It is funny. I was listening to the Zach Lowe, Bobby Marks podcast, or excuse me, Kevin Pelton at the end of that, and they were picking their all-star teams, and one of them brought up Andrew Wiggins, and the other one said, no, never mind. No.
Exactly. That's what everyone said yesterday.
But it was before those results came out, I think. It was like, oh, no, not Andrew Wiggins. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. But anyways, he's in there. So we'll see what can happen with LaMelo Ball, and we'll see what can happen with Miles Bridges. Doug, you had one thing you wanted to end with?
Well, just the fact that we're sitting here talking about Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball having to fight for all-star scraps, I think highlights the fact that the Hornets, if they want to be, legitimate, all right, we can put these cats on national TV consistently and they're going to be playoff contenders. They got to do something. And if they're not going to do it this season, then they need to do it in the offseason. But we got to start thinking big. I'm talking big players, folks. I'm not talking about these little small Rashawn Holmes moves. I'm talking big dogs. They got to go after the dames and the cats and the dogs and the giraffes. They got to go big. They got to think big.
We're going to trade for a giraffe, and then it'll all be better, according to Doug Branson. All right, that'll do it for the Locked On Hornets
Mitch,
podcast.
Do something.
Thanks for joining us here and making us your first listen every day. Make sure you make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert. I can't even hear you. This whole time, it's been hard, and I can't even hear you.
Doug
so I'm
now?
just gonna.
Oh, great! It's just out the window.
Yeah, I have no clue what anybody's saying. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and it's available on all platforms. Make sure you check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with you on Monday.
Hornets.